What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Stefan, and tonight I'm going to be talking about and celebrating one of the greatest kings of comedy on his birthday. Yes, it's Mr. Eddie Murphy. So sit back and enjoy yourself on a tribute to one of the greatest kings of comedy on his birthday. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment on the video. Subscribe to my channel if you're new. Welcome back to the channel if you're a returning subscriber. Also, don't forget to turn on your notification for new videos. Thank you for your support. So here we go. Happy birthday to one of the greatest, influential, and iconic comedians of all time. We all know the name, we all know the laugh, and we all know his many iconic, classic, forever hilarious, funny movies that have been staples in American culture for more than 40 years. Eddie Murphy, Will Smith, Richard Pryor, Denzel Washington, Martin Lawrence, Chris Tucker, Samuel L. Jackson, and Jamie Foxx has always been one of my personal heroes and all-time favorite black male actors ever since I was a little kid. And yet, despite his overwhelming success, many accolades, and having coming one of the all-time most beloved entertainers in stand-up comedy and film, I still feel like Eddie Murphy isn't given enough credit for just how incredibly versatile and skilled he is as an actor. This is a man that's managed to play multiple characters all in the same time, and was so convincing that people didn't know that everyone that Eddie Murphy was playing was him all along, was completely stunned. Eddie Murphy's career as a movie star exploded like a comet thanks to movies like 48 Hours and Trading Places, which were his first and second film. For the world to see how funny Eddie Murphy is on stage, it had to be Delirious, that came out in 1983. Delirious, on the other hand, was a one-off or HBO special, so it doesn't make the cut. With a starring role on Saturday Night Live and a slew of huge successful film, it's hard to argue that anyone that was funnier in the 1980s than Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy was a major star of the decade. The success of his film turned into the 1990s, but at the end of the decade, he made some questionable choices and made some really bad movies. Since then, his films has been best uneven, like his recent comeback with films Dolomite Is My Name in 2009 and 2019, plus the sequel to his classic 1988 film Coming to America in 2001, had me reflect on his legacy all over again. Not only his career, but what he means as a cultural figure. If a movie featured actor Eddie Murphy, chances are you're going to laugh out loud. Here are some of the hilarious things that can happen in his film. As far as comedians go, Eddie Murphy made a considerable transition from stage to screen. Eddie Murphy began performing comedy when he was just only a teenager. For his routine, he often embraced stereotypes and impressions of famous celebrities. His natural knack for comedy allowed him to breathe life into several characters he played in film. He was one of the first comedy rock stars. He started in stand-up and sketch, proving that the standout star on SNL when he was just 19 years old. He could carry sketches with other cast members and by himself, a task that he did very often in sketches like Buckwheat Sings, Professor Shabazz K. Morton, and Jane Brown's Celebrity Hot Tub Party. No matter how big or small his part is, the audience adored him and his electric energy. Most of his sketches were performed just once, so the jokes never got scaled. Saturday Night Live is a huge deal today, and also a big joke, in my opinion. But when Eddie Murphy got recruited by Saturday Night Live, it lost all its original star performance and its struggle for a little fame. The legendary Eddie Murphy changed the situation once and for all when he worked for Saturday Night Live for 4 long years, from 1980 to 1984, and was known for creating characters like Gumby, Mr. Robinson, and Buckwheat. And what is even more incredible is how he was able to turn the culture on his head during his heyday. On prime time TV, no one pushed the boundaries of race, sex, or religion quite just like Saturday Night Live in the 80s, and he was the ringleader of that movie. He definitely saved the show during the 80s. The part of the genius of Eddie Murphy is how young he was when he made a name for himself in comedy. He was doing stand-up in NYC clubs as early as 15 years old. He got hired for Saturday Night Live at 18, starred in Trading Places, 48 Hours, Beverly Hills Cop, and his stand-up special Delirious, all before the age of 25. Most people are still working their way into show business at that age. His comedy got exposed the subjects of race in ways that were both true and gut-busting. He was unafraid of the humor, and the humor was straightforward. Something that was noticeably lacking in comedy today, because people are worried of causing controversy. Moreover, he is also a significant figure in black cinema, blaming new revolutions and taking forward of the noble cause representation and mainstream media. When I think about Eddie's legacy, I often think about my first introduction to his work. My first memories and introduction of his comedy came in the summer of 1996. My mom, my twin brother Steven, and I went to see The Nutty Professor. Me and my brother was 6 years old at that time. My mama was a huge Eddie Murphy fan, and I was starting to develop my own sense of humor and being a true fan of his. Even though I didn't catch every joke on my first watch, I knew that that this movie was funny. I laugh at the fart jokes and the wacky family members. My favorite part of the movie was when Eddie and Jada, who was Buddy Love at the time, went to a comedy club, and Dave Chappelle, who was a young, unknown, and upcoming comedian telling jokes on stage. Then Buddy Love got on stage, just in him from everything, from his mama, his hair, and get into a hilarious fight with him, which was hilarious, slamming his head, trying to break his arm while playing Loving You by Minnie Riperton, and throwing them into the piano, which was funny for me. And it was so hilarious, I couldn't stop laughing. The dinner scene was hilarious too. The most memorable part of that movie was the repeat of Mama Clump saying, "Hercules, Hercules, Hercules." It was so amazing how this man played each character in the room the same way he did with Coming to America. My second introduction to his work was the 98 film, and one of my childhood favorites, Dr. Dolittle. Now, the movie that really made me into a Lifetime fan was the 1999 underrated, unappreciated, and classic film, and one of my favorites, which is called Life. Seeing Eddie and Martin together, along with Bernie Mac and Rick James, that was a good cast to watch, and it was a great movie. Growing up, Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence always been two of my all-time favorite comedians, along with Richard Pryor. I loved this classic so much during my childhood, during the cornball, especially the cornbread scene. As I got older, much older, my love and appreciation for Eddie Murphy grew stronger and more wider with movies like Shrek and Dreamgirls, which was another phenomenal and amazing movie with an amazing all-star cast with Jennifer Hudson, Beyonce, Jamie Foxx, Anika Rose, etc., etc. This movie was definitely on repeat, non-stop, when I was 16 years old. Besides the amazing, show-stopping, Oscar-winning performance from Jennifer Hudson, his performance as Jimmy Thunder Early was phenomenal also. He should have won an Oscar for this classic performance, in my opinion. My collection kept growing despite the bad streak of terrible movies that continued until I saw Dolomite Is My Name in 2019. This movie was definitely one of the best comedies of 2019 in my opinion, and a great tribute to the late great Rudy Ray Moore, who starred in the 1975 version of Dolomite, which was a classic and considered as the godfather of rap, paving the way for hip hop and the artists along with it. But these accomplishments were nothing if not impressed. Eddie Murphy himself stated that all of these pales in comparisons to his accomplishments to a father. When he was in his excellence, he found his calling for comedy, studying the greats that was his heroes, such as Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby. He already knew that he was going to be the next comedy superstar and the GOAT of comedy. At that time in the 90s, if you was a true Eddie Murphy fan, you had really need to understand how much his presence and influence meant so much to us. As a child of the 90s, I was blessed enough to see a variety of funny black men on TV and film, like Martin Lawrence, the Wayans brothers, Will Smith, Robert Townsley, and so on and so on. And so these were the names I knew early on. So to me, Eddie Murphy was just another person to the long list of funny black people that I saw on TV/film. And plus being born in 1990, I'm a part of the generation of kids that were born in the middle of what some critics once described as an Eddie Murphy quote unquote slump, if you want to call it that. I was born years after the edgy, raw, delirious Beverly Hills Cop Eddie, but also the years before the family-friendly Clumps, Dr. Doolittle, Donkey from Shrek. Eddie. Eddie is a pioneer for black comedians, actors. His early roles were the prototype of the hip reverse fish out of the water character for black comedian actors. In fact, one can argue that Will Smith roles in the early season of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was, and in many ways, a 90s hip-hop version of many types of characters Eddie played early in his career. He is the guy that doesn't quite belong, but is comfortable in his own skin and always find a way out of trouble. Not only Will Smith is an example of a direct commented descent of Eddie Murphy's legacy. One could look at Martin Lawrence's career. Look at Chris Tucker in films like Rush Hour, or even some of Kevin Hart's roles. Eddie influence is in there. He showed that black comics can play the hero. It's also noted that many of his film roles early on, Eddie is the hero. I know that might sound pretty obvious or remarkable to some people, but in considering the era in which he became a star in the early 80s, think about the depictions of black black figures or black people in general in mainstream films prior to Eddie Murphy. How many black comedians or actors got to play the heroes? Not many. On top of that, how many black comedian actors of that time simply got to play multi-dimensional human beings, being brash, bold, funny, cool, and slightly vulgar all in the same time? Nobody. Eddie Murphy was one of the first of his kind. When I think of who is Eddie Murphy is, the answer to that question helps me to understand why and many others connect with his work. Eddie Murphy is us. He is the people we know most of my life. When I watch his work on Saturday Night Live, I'm reminded of myself, of some of the guys that I grew up with back in public schools back in Harlem. When I watch movies like The Nutty Professor, Trading Places, or In Life, he reminds me of some of my family members, my cousins, and guys that I heard in a barbershop. A large piece of what makes Eddie extra extraordinary is that his work reflects the wit, the charisma, and brilliance of many everyday, ordinary folks. First of all, rest in peace to Charlie Murphy. When I watch The Chappelle Show, I always listen to the stories. He always talk about his relationship with his brother Eddie and how much he loved each other. Like, that was so beautiful. Like, Eddie Murphy influenced so many comedian geniuses such as Chris Tucker, Dave Chappelle, Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, Martin Lawrence, and so many more. When it comes to my all-time favorite Eddie Murphy movies, which I got so many on my list. Beverly Hills Cop and Coming to America both come on my list at number one with a tie. And the reason why I say that, because these not because only these are classics, but great representation on black culture, especially coming to America. Even though Zambuna is a fictional place, it showed a beautiful. It was a beautiful place, and it showed so many beautiful black and beautiful black queens and kings and multiple characters that he was playing that was so legendary. I loved it, especially the Randy Watson and the mic drop. Even though in Beverly Hills Cop, where he played a cop from Detroit on vacation trying to solve the murder of his best friend, which he did. But he also became a hero, even with the odds against him, with no support. He proved everybody wrong. Was a young man who was coming from Brooklyn and Roosevelt, Long Island, who became a comedy superstar and one of the greatest and influential comedy kings ever. I just want to thank you for the laughs and everything. Thank you for enjoying this musical ride with me. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment on the video. Subscribe to my channel if you're new. Also, don't forget to turn on your notification for new videos. Stay safe and blessed and always. Have a good night. I'm out. Peace.